And we're live. Welcome back to After Hours with Dr. Vincent and Christian. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the third episode of the whole series, and I'm so happy that someone is still listening. Aren't you happy, Christian?
Yeah, I'm delighted. I think we've seen some audience growth. That's amazing.
And thank you for everyone who has rated us 5-star on both Apple Podcasts as well as the Spotify platforms. That really help us in terms of growing the audience, growing the recommendation to new people, as well as to giving us the platform to tell you about science, health, basically everything that has anything to do with our daily life that you probably are thinking of, want to ask, but not necessarily feel that great in terms of voicing it out loud. For that purpose, you have me and Christian in order to making things simple and practical as well as personal. After all, after our tagline is where science gets personal. And it doesn't get any more personal, I think, than our topic today.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how controversial a topic it is, but it's about children having children and what that how that impacts your life and your health and that sort of stuff. Because one of us here does have kids and one of us doesn't. So we probably come to it from sort of different perspectives.
And I have a daughter, and Christian
Well, you just
doesn't,
outed me as the one that doesn't have children.
and
So
probably shouldn't. No, I'm kidding. I'm only joking. Uh, but that gave us a really good bridge to, don't cancel me, people. A really good bridge to the topic today because for most people, I would say for all people, with the exception of very, very few, parenting is the most beautiful and wonderful thing in the world. But do you know that scientifically, parenting also one of the most destructive thing that you can do to your health?
well, I guess I'd believe that.
I
But
say that with love, by the way.
yeah, I know. But at the same time, you're an extremely fit and healthy individual. You do all the things that a good dad should do, because I see that personally. When we're with your daughter. Um, and I know that you're giving her the very best childhood that basically you could get. So it hasn't seemed to impact your health
So far.
sort of too much. You haven't hit the terrible teens though, or something like that. You haven't had that stress and
Thank goodness.
worry and all that sort of stuff
Because at the
that I
moment,
understand comes with that.
well, you do have a little bit more insight to that, not from a perspective of living with kids as their parents, but you do have nephews.
No, I do, absolutely, and I see, the tremendous amount of effort that my sister has to go to
It's
raise
it's
two
not all bad. Kids
two
do
very,
bring joy
very.
and purpose and connection.
Oh, I'm not saying any of it. I'm not necessarily saying any of it's bad, but like any big decision, and there's probably no bigger decision that you can make in your life as to whether or not you have kids and how many you have and all that sort of stuff. It kind of does have an impact on you. So I'm just wondering how you're doing it so well.
I thank you. I take that as a compliment because this is something that I really take pride in, not because I know or I feel that I'm doing it right, but because of all the things that I learned. And I do think that every single moment in your life is a learning opportunity. But let me tell you this, nothing humbles you more effectively than being told no by your daughter. It doesn't matter how much sense that you try to explain and how much preparation that you have done in order to make sure that your day goes smoothly. But at the end of the day, they dictate what you do in a day because they are your priority in a lot of cases for most parents. And that's the reason why sometimes making your children priority, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but the act of making your child or your children a priority in your life can be detrimental to your life itself and also to your health, because from the get-go, most parents would agree with me that the sleepless night, the sleep deprivation, and we do know how negatively sleep deprivation can actually impact your day and your life. And the stress, the basically you have a complete collapse of your own entire life, because you're trying not only to keep this little person alive, but you also want to impart everything that you know, your love, all of the lessons, making sure that they have a really good start in life. You cook for them, you clean for them, because they're fully dependent on you. And I do think that that all of these acts that come out of love and selflessness take a toll on you.
So does that mean for someone like me who doesn't have any children, am I like super selfish or something?
I don't think so. I do believe that having a kid, the decision of having a kid is not an easy one. I do believe that it is something that a lot of people need to take it more seriously. I feel that with the shows like Teen Moms or reality shows like that, people often trivialize the commitment and the responsibilities that come with having a kid. And I do think it's actually, I would counter this and I would say that it is actually selfish when someone does not take into account and does not consider all of these things that entail with having a kid. And I do think that it's actually selfish, because unless you are so sure that you're going to be able to provide and give your all and all of the best within your limits and capabilities to these kids, to your kids, I do think it's selfish to bring a life into the world.
So it's sort of kind of a little bit both ways. You need to be doing it for the right reasons, and there's just,
And
I
with
guess,
the right people too,
and
because
yeah, and with the right person, I
because
guess.
there's a lot of couple who somehow under the illusion that kids will save their relationship or will save their marriage.
Well, we know some people like this.
Yes,
Yeah.
and only to find out a year later that not only it didn't help their relationship, it actually made it worse in the way that logically, when you bring a new unknown factor, and I'm not trying to dehumanize the kid and call it a factor, but what I'm saying is that when you bring a new entity, a new factor, a new person into your life, whilst your life itself is not really on a solid ground, that can make things even more shaky.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess, for me, it was just not necessarily something that I kind of ever wanted to do. And I think
My
there's
whole life,
no, I know
I
your whole
want
life
to I want to be a dad,
you wanted
and
to be a dad and all that sort of stuff. But there's this group of people out there, I guess, like me, who and I know other people like me, obviously, who just didn't want children
that's not a bad thing or a good
of
thing.
their own. By the way, I absolutely love kids. I really love my nephews, and I spend as much time as possible with them.
See,
Um,
this is the difference, right? I don't love kids. I cannot
no,
finish.
well, you do love kids.
Well,
You do love
not to
kids.
the
That's
extent
that's
where
that's completely untrue.
I love my own kid,
He's trying
but
to be controversial. That's
I love
completely
my own
untrue.
kid, but I don't like. I have a lot of respect for people who work in the early childhood education, who work as teachers. I have a lot of respect. As a matter of fact, I really do believe that we need to treat and reward our teachers a lot more. They need to be paid better. They need to be treated and respected better, because they literally are shaping our future generation.
Yeah. Okay. So, maybe, maybe I could ask you about some of those health impacts that you brought up, sort of previously. The loss of sleep, and I guess, the loss of sleep, and how to deal with that is something that people will experience. Earlier in the child's childhood, but a lot of the time, people don't talk about as that as the kid gets older and into teenage years, the level of worry that occurs, and
Worrying works though. 80% of the things that I worry about don't actually come into reality. So clearly, worrying works.
no, I think there's even a famous Mark Twain quote about that. Somewhere I can't remember the exact quote. Maybe we'll look it up and talk about it later. But um, it's that sort of that worry and that stress, because when you have a child, like they become the center of your world. So I guess how are you dealing with that sleeplessness and stress? Because I know, like everyone, Olivia's had to be rushed to the emergency for
Well,
various things.
yes, we'll cover that because you wouldn't even believe it that we actually had to go to the emergency room 3 times within the span of 2 weeks, to the point where I got worried that they're gonna call child services and everything. But
It's sort of frequent flyer. They have a frequent flyer
they
program.
do. They didn't. They just got our name and they just said, "Oh, didn't we see you last week?" But anyway, the first year, I really think that was the pivotal year and moment where you kind of know whether or not you're cut out for it in the way that you're really enjoying it, or you need to get better. And I'm saying this
Yeah,
out of love.
and it's a need to get better. You can't quit.
No, no,
It's not a thing that you can
no,
quit.
it's not. You can't quit. You can't. It's not a job. It's not something that you can just stop doing. It is you. So you don't have any other option but to get better. And have a guess. Did you know, or do you know, how many hours of sleep new parents would lose within the first year of their child being born?
Oh my gosh, it's got to be somewhere up 60 or 70%, isn't it?
700 hours of sleep in the first year.
Oh my god.
And I mean, have you ever, for those of you who have never experienced this before, just trying to go to work without enough sleep, or when you wake up and you couldn't sleep the night before, you would be grumpy. And if you have a job where you can just cruise and take it easy for a day, lucky you. But it, being a parent, when you are sleep deprived, not only some of us, we still have to work, you also need to make sure that the baby is being cared for, because the consequences can be really fatal if you're not actually 100% or 110% paying attention to the kid, to the baby. So this I think this is what you're talking about when it comes to constant worrying, because constant worrying, especially when it is for your kid, can be really crippling. And it does things to your brain. It does things to spike your cortisol level. And this spike of cortisol level can actually cause a whole lot of different health issues, things like inflammation, weight gain, insulin resistance. So basically you are not only you are doing something, especially for new parents with the first kid, you're doing something that you had never done before. You're also doing it with one or even sometimes both hands being tied behind your back.
And sort of in that constant state of worry and sort of stress, especially maybe for the first time
Parent.
parent. Maybe it gets easier. Maybe people could comment about that. Maybe it gets easier with the
Well, it depends,
second and
because
third.
sometimes you also get we are very lucky. I'm very, very lucky that Olivia, my daughter, was a really good sleeper compared to other kids that we within our social circle. So we always say that the second child will be the complete opposite of the first one, because karma, right? Like, things have to be fair. The universe is fair and balanced. So if you get a really good one, really good sleeper, really good eater the first time around, the next time someone else will get that luck, and then your second kid will be either a bad sleeper, a bad eater, or even both. No, this is a
This
thing
is
that
true.
parents would say. And I have to say that it is, I don't know why I scream, but I have to say that people don't say this out loud, but I actually can't for the life of me think of a compelling reason to have a second kid, because I've only just got my life back in a way that traveling, in a way that working, in a way that making some changes, or making a quick snap decision. I don't know if I could go back again.
Yeah, well, I give it 12 or 18 months, and we'll be there. We'll be here all over. We'll be here all over again.
Oh wow, I can't. Well, for now, for the life of me, I can't do that because even like lack of exercise. I'm not the most active person. I'm not very athletic in any
Oh, that's not true.
definition.
That's not true.
I love to move. I love to go and walk. I love to do hiking. I love to be out and about with Chili, our dog. But parents actually report 32% less physical activity in the early years after having kids. And I do think that that impacts a lot of things because when you move, when you sweat, it actually gives you the happy hormone.
But
And
isn't that also sort of the irregular eating and not taking care of, the nutrition? Because again, you're focused on someone else.
yes,
You're
and
trying to
and
you're
you
trying to
don't have
get
a
them
routine.
to eat.
You don't have you don't have a routine in the way that you had before. Your routine is basically based on your kid, and there's several ways to tackle this kind of thing because I always in the belief that I'm here on the earth first. So I'm not being selfish, but the newcomer needs to kind of adjust to my schedule, right? To an extent. So instead of spending the weekend in the playground only, Olivia comes with us whenever we go for long lunches, whenever we go to socialize with friends and stuff like that, because that we found that it actually really helps to expand her social ability, social circle, the interaction, the vocabularies. I mean, Olivia is 2, but she talks all the time, and sometimes she would say words that I didn't even realize that she could.
And she hasn't learned this stuff from Bluey. So
W- Bluey, Teletubbies, the
Well, tell
fire truck thing.
Teletubbies don't talk. That's just a weird
They
one.
don't, but the narrator talks. So
Oh, okay. The
Teletubbies, it's
sun
time
thing.
to the
Oh,
sun. Yeah.
yeah. I think that show should probably be banned. Anyway.
Controversial, but I happen to like Teletubbies. What's
Mhm.
wrong with Teletubbies? I
It
know Blue is better. Blue is the favorite in our household. And did you know that they just announced that finally, after long, long time expecting the Bluey movie, they just made an announcement. The creator just made an announcement that,
They're gonna make the Bluey movie.
and it will be released in 2027.
Okay, well, the parents will rush to the cinema
I would rush the cinema.
for that one. I won't be amongst them, but it's not obviously not aimed at me, I'm guessing.
Perhaps not, but here's a fun fact for you. Did you know that uh, new fathers experience hormonal changes
Really?
during their fatherhood?
Because I knew women obviously do.
Fathers do too.
Fathers as well.
It lowers their testosterone level and heighten their oxytocin level because these changes, this shift, actually help dads to bond and look after their kids because evolution created um, us human to actually survive, right? So whenever there is a new changes, whenever there is a transformational addition to your family unit, it actually does make sense that it will change your physiological profile because hormone is our messengers. We learned last week about addiction that it is heavily dependent on the hormone dopamine. So it would make sense and it would be logical that there is some level of change when it comes to new parents.
Okay, so we've got a situation here that you sort of what I'm hearing is there's sort of those hormonal changes going on. There's there's an increase in stress. There's potential loss of sleep quality and things like that. And you're also probably not eating quite right. So this is a pretty sort of dynamic time that lasts for a little while. I
I
mean, you're
haven't.
talking about lasting for this lasts for a few years before stuff settles down, surely.
Well, and potentially it would last even longer with the cost of living crisis. They can't even find a house to buy and to purchase and to move out of your
Okay,
own
so you're
home.
currently arguing
Against having kids, right? And I haven't even gotten to the most fatal or extreme negative health effect yet.
But what?
Because it literally shortens your life.
But okay, well, let's leave that for just for a second. But what is it that people need to focus on in this time of upheaval? So for example, the people listening, they might know some people who have just become parents or about to become parents and that sort of stuff. What's actually the maybe 3 or 5 things people need to note down, put on their fridge, and remember to do, or try to do?
After or before they have kids?
No, after they have kids, they're going through all these hormonal changes you're talking about, and sleep's maybe not great, and you've got all this stress and all that sort of stuff. I mean, how do you maintain your health? Because if you get unhealthy, that's not good.
Everything else falls apart.
That's exactly right. And if stress builds on stress builds on stress because you're worried about all these different things happening. So what should people be doing? What should people be focusing on? Just the simple things. I mean, it's not going to be a fix all, but what's the simple things?
Well, the first thing is that knowing that you're not supposed to know everything, especially if you're first-time parents. You're not supposed to know every single thing that has anything to do with parenting. I mean, I read it somewhere that there is around about 20 parenting books coming out every month, 20 parents theory, the parenting tricks and hacks and everything. This shows that there is no one silver bullet when it comes to effective parenting. It really depends on yourself, your personality, and the kids. So accepting, it is very humbling for you to accept that you don't know everything that has anything to do with parenting. So accepting that actually relieve yourself from this pressure in terms of you need to know your kids the best. Because guess what? They are a living being, sentient living being with personalities, with free will, and with they talk back as well. So you need to know that if you don't get it right the first time, it's not that you're failing as parents. I do believe that
So
social media and
it's sort of
media
something you got to
learn along the way.
along the way. Take some advice, but in fact, you got to learn it by yourself.
I always say that your doctor or your midwife or medical professional, yourself, and perhaps your own parents, those are the 3 exceptions when it comes to advice that you need to listen to. Because people have different approach when it comes to their kids. And within limits, they are entitled to that because it is their kids. But secondly, you need to do that also because the pressure that the society gives parents, especially mothers and first-time mothers, is actually really enormous. It makes you think that you are less capable than other parents.
Yeah. So on that, so that's sort of the more psychological side. What can you do on the more sort of physical, maybe the physical side, to make sure that you put yourself in the best place to deal with the psychological strains? Is there is there a special diet? Is there the first time parents or early childhood parents, Dr. Vincent, registered suggested diet?
I would say the two simple things that you can do that immediately will make you better parents. The first one is make sure that you drink enough water. And secondly, make sure that you walk every day. And just doing these 2 things reduces the stress that your body is undergoing by 20 to 30%. Because when you're dehydrated, your brain is not working as fast and as effectively in terms of decision-making process as when it is in a normal situation. Secondly, walking gives you that semblance of activity. A lot of times when you have a little baby at home, you are confined to your chair in the way that you need to nurse the baby, you need to pet the baby, you need to rock the baby. Giving yourself the allowance in terms of moving, because stroller and prams are really good now. They are shock resistance, the absorbance and everything, you can literally take even newborn baby out for a walk. And that 20 to 30 minutes walk every day really does help to elevate your mood. And remember, you cannot be a good parent when you are not in a good shape. In a good shape means that you need to be happy and you need to stop being harsh to yourself, because whatever that you're keeping inside, like it or not, or believe it or not, or whether you accept it or not, it will come out and it will really determine how you talk to your kid, your expression and everything. Don't think that babies don't actually get all of this stimulus from the way that you interact with them. They do. As a matter of fact, they are very sensitive to that.
So I guess what you're saying is, you shouldn't let yourself just go. You shouldn't just dress in the grey sweats and give up on everything else except looking after this little life.
I would say that
to, look after yourself a little bit as well. You need to keep.
sure, you need to feel good within yourself, but don't let what people think of what you wear deter you from going out. I would say if you're comfortable in your gray sweatpants or in your dressing gown, go out. Don't let that be the thing that keeps you from leaving the house, because you know what? If nothing at all, being a parent gives you that right, almost an allowance to say F all to people for, you know, to an extent, because it is now between you and your baby and also your partners. I believe that having a kid really shifts your priority. A lot of things you become
But
like
sort
not
of-
really.
But you're saying that the priority should be on the family, not just on the child, and that's kind of the balance.
I believe so, because in my mind, even the Bible says it, right? You love yourself so that you can love your neighbor. So it is very, very clear. The loving yourself comes first. Because if you don't love yourself, if you don't look after yourself, how do you know how to look after others? And I'm saying the Bible not because you need to follow everything in the Bible. What I'm saying is that even one of the most famous philosophical book tells you that. And this has been passed through generation in the way that it takes a village to look after a baby. So how is it somehow now a parent or parents, especially when they're new at this, somehow are being expected to know everything, even though it is a saying.
Well,
It literally is a saying.
It's
It
all
takes a
online,
village.
Isn't it all online? I mean, it's just you just go to Instagram and it tells you how to raise your kid or something like that.
Sure, that is the first thing that I will do whenever you are unsure about how to prevent your kids from choking. Go to Instagram, search some beautiful looking influencer, which probably have 3 nannies at home, and take everything. No, I'm
I don't.
kidding.
I
Of
think you're
course,
kidding.
I'm
I
kidding.
think you're kidding.
I am joking, and this is why you always have to listen to the episode in its entirety, so that you don't just take snippets of it. But what I'm saying is that whatever that you see online, and I can speak about this from experience. That's not true. I mean, Olivia is so cute, but there's probably 2 seconds out of the full hours that she would be.
She has her little terror moments as well, does she?
And she doesn't
Not that
stop.
I've ever seen. I've never. She's always perfectly behaved when I'm around.
See, this is the thing.
I think it's my influence.
Of course, that's also a joke. What I'm saying is that being a parent, it's not easy even when your child is not throwing a tantrum. So Olivia doesn't throw tantrums. She is just so active, and she doesn't cry, she doesn't scream, she just keeps on moving. And even that is hard, because you have to follow her, you need to interact with her, because I don't want her to not get that interaction and responses and attention from us. But that is actually quite exhausting. Imagine having worked all day, picking her up from daycare, and she still has this amount of energy. And I had to somehow create a theme park in our living room so that she could crawl, she could jump, she could climb, and at the same time keeping her safe.
Okay, so just before we move on to the next thing I want to ask you about, I did find that quote by Mark Twain, which is actually one of my favorites, which is, I've had a lot of worries in my life, most of which never happened.
And that's true. That's true for a lot of us. I'm I am a warrior, and I don't think that's bad or that's good. It's just the way that my brain is wired. I consider every single possibilities that I can think of, and 80% of that, like I said just now, are worrying. And I
But the way that you're prepared to, you've got yourself prepared to deal with that is that, I guess you're healthy to start with. I mean, gosh, if you were a worrier and you were also, sort of very unhealthy, you weren't looking after your own health, and then you had all these additional stresses and all that sort of stuff. That's not a good.
We were talking about whether or not having kids or not having kids is a form of being selfish. What I will say is that parents who consciously and actively make unhealthy choices for themselves and their own bodies are actually very selfish, because especially if you have young kids, who are going to look after them if you somehow
Get ill
or
or
get a
stuff
heart
like that.
attack? And number two, kids learn their behavior, especially when it comes to health, how they treat their body, what are the things that they put into their body when it comes to food and nutrients. They learn it from you. I'm sure that at some level, deep down, if you don't want to admit it, and you're doing all of these unhealthy things to your body, you know that that's wrong. Why then you would want your kids to learn that kind of behavior and then maybe pass it on to the next generation? So I do believe that being a parent should be a wake up call for people in terms of not only for the kids, but also for themselves. Because I believe that you want to see your kids grow up, graduate, or find a job, building their own lives.
You want your kids to be happier than you were.
Yes,
Isn't
the
that?
next
I mean,
generation should
I
be
don't have
better.
children. Yeah, I don't have children, but I understand that is what my aspiration would be if I did.
Well,
And I'm sure it's.
the next generation should be better than this generation. I mean, as much as growing up in an Asian household, my parents would say that you have it so lucky and so good. Like when mom or dad were young, we had to walk like 20 kilometers just to go to school.
That's the same all around the world. I think it just goes. I think the climate is the only thing that changes. Your parents might have been saying we had to walk to school in 40-degree heat, and my parents might have been saying they had to walk to school in sleet and snow, sort of thing.
But I guess you know what, like, and 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 I don't want this episode to be a deterrent for people wanting to have kids, because there are also positives when it comes to having kids.
I don't think we're going to be deterring anyone from having kids or anything or anything
I
or
know,
anything like
but
that.
it's important to mention this too, because kids do give you purpose. And as much as biologically kids accelerate aging, because it does impact our DNA, and the transcription of our DNA. But kids also, all in all, extend your life in the way that having kids reduce your all-cause mortality by 20%.
So does this mean my youthful looks are more down to not having children than to using AV skin?
It does take
skin.
It does take a village, right? So even when you don't have kids, you need to use app skin. If you have kids, you have more reasons to use app skin. So
Okay.
I win.
Okay, so we only have a little bit of time left, so I want to ask you about actually some really controversial things. The first one I want to ask you is, should kids take supplements, and when should they start them, or do they need them, or what's off limits? What should absolutely not be given to children?
That's a really good question, because we do have a lot of questions when it comes to, we do have a supplement company. So we do have questions when it comes to whether or not the kids can take activated phenolics. The answer is yes, but I'm going to answer your question wearing both hats, as a scientist and as a father. I do believe that nutrients should come primarily from real food. So by real food, I mean food that you prepare freshly, vegetables, fruit, and stuff like that. However, there are limitations to what you can absorb, especially at that young age. The first one that I would say that is quite important to include in your child nutrient profile is probiotic, especially if your child goes to daycare where they're being exposed with all of these germs, which is important and good for the immune system, but it's only good when their foundational health is good. So probiotic is very important. And activated phenolics, because activated phenolics in the powder form is 100% made from apples. It's 100% natural. It's the only antioxidant that kids can take. I started live on activated phenolics when she was 7 months. Uh, it is also safe for people who take through their stages of life. So women who are pregnant and breastfeeding, they can also take this. And the reason why this is important is because similarly with infections and exposure to germ and everything, their bodies are also being bombarded by free radicals and inflammation. So giving their body a little bit of help in managing that inflammation really goes a long way, because when their body is strong, their mind is strong, and that fuels the learning process. Because the issue with sick kids is actually less about the immune system, but more about how their whole body thrives. When you are sick, you don't want to do anything. So imagine when your kid is sick, it really dampen their learning opportunity and ability and interest. So this is the reason why being healthy, your kids being healthy is very important, because you don't want them to miss out on these milestones and progresses and learning opportunity.
But you probably wouldn't give Olivia a herbal supplement of any kind, would you?
Most herbal supplements are extracted in the tincture form. So tincture means that it is being extracted using alcohol or organic solvent. By organic solvent, I mean the chemical solvent. That's what you call it, organic solvent in science. And unfortunately, this form of extract can really overload their detoxification system. By detoxification system, I mean their kidney and the liver, because everything and anything that your body cannot absorb and utilize, your kidney and liver have to work extra to flush them out. And if it can overload adult system, it most certainly will overload a kid system, and you don't want that. And at the same time, you don't really want to put your kids on to like the multivitamins because of two things. The first one is that their body will not absorb and utilize it. Again, overworking their kidney and liver. And secondly, you don't want them to start their lives and their healthy living habit by thinking that I don't have to eat my broccoli. I don't have to eat my carrots and corn. I can just take this supplement. And what's even worse, gummy supplement, because you hear it here.
Well, they're like,
it doesn't work. They don't work.
They're like lollies, aren't they? And
I
people almost give them to
I would
kids
give
like
them
lollies.
I would give them snakes, natural confectionery
Yeah.
gummies compared to these so-called healthy gummies, because they are the very opposite of being healthy.
Okay, so the things definitely on maybe off the list. Fish oil. You shouldn't give fish oil to kids, or
Fish oil, especially the one with the high DHA component, can be really good for not babies but toddlers and kids, because DHA does help with their brain development.
Okay.
It does help with their cognitive and learning ability.
Yep.
But you need to make sure that they are pure.
Okay.
They are not.
So it's the expensive ones.
It's
You need to buy the expensive ones.
You do get what you pay for, because some of these fish oil supplements, they are like $10 and you get 40 capsules. Just imagine, you can't even get canned tuna for that price.
Yeah. Vitamin C tablets?
Not necessarily. I don't believe in taking vitamin C in the supplement form. If you can, we live in Australia.
You should be able to get it through citrus and
citrus. We live in Australia where we're so lucky that we have access to fresh fruit and vegetables. So why do you give your kids tablets and capsules and chewables when you can give them oranges
and vitamin C's less appealing name is absorbic acid.
ascorbic acid. That's correct.
Ascorbic acid. Ascorbic acid.
Yes,
right?
which is actually an irritant.
And it comes out of a factory, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
Yeah.
So even though this health
That's not exactly a natural process, is it?
No, even though these supplements have orange juice, or it is being made to look like the vitamin C has been extracted from citrus. Nope, 99% of vitamin C supplements out there, they never even saw the outside of the labs before they actually get to you in the form of bottles.
And I'm only naming the big ones, but I guess the final one for me, vitamin D. Should kids have vitamin D?
This is a controversial one. We need an entire episode when it comes to vitamin D and sun exposure. But I have to say that, when it comes to vitamin D, for example, it takes a very small amount of blood being tested to make sure that you know whether or not you're deficient. Because vitamin C deficiency is a concern. But at the same time, you don't also want to over supplement your kid with vitamin D, because vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin, which means that unlike vitamin B, when you consume a lot of vitamin B, sure, it doesn't get absorbed and it needs to be flushed out and it overwork your liver and kidney, sure, but at least your body can flush it out. Vitamin D, on the other hand, gets inside your tissues because they are fat soluble, and it is much harder to get rid of the excess of vitamin D. And over time, along with vitamin A, can cause toxicity in your body.
Really? Okay. So we've only got a couple of minutes left. The last question I wanted to ask, and please, maybe if you just give the answer in just the summary form or whatever.
I hate that when people say that.
I know. I'm just trying to keep it to keep our thing to 40 minutes or so. Should kids be eating the same food as their parents, or should you prepare a special meal for them?
It depends on the parents. If the parents eat healthily, sure, because you don't really want to go somewhere and prepare your kid a special food that you have.
But that's a real parenting decision, because there's parents out there that insist, and I've had them come over to my own place and they bring the whole meal for their children because they've prepared it specially in advance and all this sort of stuff. And I think, oh my God,
your own food,
how well adjusted will that kid be? Seriously,
Unless your own food and eating habit is so unhealthy that you need to prepare something separately that is healthier for your kids. I really disagree with that kind of approach. But again,
haven't we just talked about this? Shouldn't you be preparing healthy food for yourself?
That is correct, but it's easier said than done. Okay. Sometimes, I love my fried chicken, and when I want to leave to eat fried chicken, I fry my own chicken. So I prepare it freshly and separately because I don't want it to be fried in oils that are not healthy, and I don't want it to be too salty.
So you're not feeding your 2-year-old KFC?
No,
probably a good move.
I have to say though that I'm guilty as charged when it comes to dinosaur nuggets.
Okay.
And I do think that the marketing, I would buy dinosaur nuggets, and this just proves my point that your habit transfers to your kids because Liv loves the animal and dinosaur nuggets.
Well, this has been such a good conversation. So thank you very much, Dr. Vincent.
Well, thank you. I do think that it is such a good topic and something that not a lot of people talk about it, the other side of parenting, because it's almost like people are a little bit afraid and they're worried to be criticized whenever they have comments on parenting, because this is something that's so personal.
Very personal.
On that note, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will post this on Thursday at 5 p.m. because after all, the name of the program is called After Hours. I can't post it while you're at work because you probably want to be listening to this in your own time. And on that note, thank you again. Thank you, Christian. And we will see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.